ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः. See, we have seen today happens to be Monday, so we are doing Aparokshanubhuti, maybe the last two classes. And after this book is over, we'll do Ramagita ji. Rohini ji has sent for me Ramagita and Dakshinamurti Stotram, and we will do both of them ji. First we will do Ramagita, Sri Ramagita. You can go to Chinmay Mission and get them. You won't get it from Gita Press. You will get them only from Chinmay Mission. From Chinmay Mission you can bring. And then now Samadhi ke Vigna. It happens to be Monday, and therefore we are doing Aparokshanubhuti, and we have to do 27th page number, and 127 and 128 we have seen, but we are going to see them again. 127, 128. Samadho Kriyamane. It is not that you don't have to do Samadhi ji. You have to understand the truth. Understanding, yogis always do Samadhi. It is a yoga paddhati, Raja Yoga. That they say Dharana Dhyana Samadhi. Samadho Kriyamanetu Vignaha Ayanti Vai Balat. I am interpreting it as a jnanam. Whenever you do jignasa, whenever you are interested in the truth, there are so many obstacles that come to you in the mind. And those obstacles come by force. Per force they come. And therefore, Ayanti by Balat. Balat means by force they come. What are the Vignas? Anusandhan Rahityam. Always we have certain things called the do's and don'ts. We don't do the right things. We don't do the pertinent things, and we do the impertinent things. And then what is pertinent is for Jnanam is different from what is impertinent. Therefore, Anusandhana Rahityam. Anusandhana, doing Jignasa again and again. This is not done. Anusandhana Rahitya means Rahita. Rahita means freedom from daily practice, daily abhyasa, daily doing it, daily seeing the difference between Atma and Anatma. And therefore, when you don't do it, that is a pertinent thing, and you don't do it, that is a vigna. Alasyam and laziness, physical laziness and mental laziness. Alasyam, laziness also is something that is impertinent. But then you follow it. Alasyam is laziness. Laziness also is a vigna. Bhoga lalasam, and enjoying the pleasures, and you are thinking about the objects of pleasure, and that remembering that the objects of pleasure also is a vigna. Why? Because you don't think of the truth. The truth of the discerning between Atma and Anatma is forgotten totally, and therefore you continue to remember the objects of pleasure. Therefore, bhogalalasam, layaha, and then nidra, sleep. Sleep is something that you go to sleep also. In sleep also is not the answer, because after sleep, anything that is unmanifest, becoming unmanifest is not the answer, because anything that becomes unmanifest also has to become manifest. And therefore, if the problem becomes unmanifest, the problem will again become manifest. And therefore, sleep is not the answer, please. Even though in sleep there is peace, but yet it is not the answer. Layaha, tamascha, and then sleepiness. Tamaha means you become sleepy. You become sleepy, sleepiness. Sleepiness also. Sleepily you do discern between Atma and Anatma. You won't understand. You have to do it with diligence. Vikshepa, distraction. Distraction also is a vigna. And sleepiness is a vigna. And to go fall asleep is a vigna. And therefore, and vikshepa, distraction is a vigna. And vikshepa, rasaswadascha. And then remembering the pleasures is what rasaswada. Rasaha means the pleasure. Aswadaha means the taste, remembering the taste of the objects. Remembering the taste of the objects is what is called rasaswadascha. Shunyata. And then when you feel that I am empty, that is also a kind of I'm empty, I am not doing it. That is a kind of a boredom. That is also a kind of vigna, please. Shunyata means emptiness. Emptiness means I feel empty, and it is a kind of boredom. And when you don't have anything to occupy with, then you feel that you are bored. And that is why it is always better to do Atma and Atma Vivekaha. When you do the Atma and Atma Vivekaha, then everything is understood as Atma alone. Anatma is not parallel to Atma, please. Anatma is not something in addition to Atma. It is non-separate from Atma. Even though we say that it is the material with which it is made, that is in Srishti Prakriya, but actually everything is an object of perception. If everything is an object of perception, everything as perception, it is avidya. As an object of perception, it is maya. As an object, it is maya. As perception, every object is a perception to begin with. Then it becomes an object of perception. The dream is a perception, but it looks like an object of perception. As objects, they are maya. As perceptions, they are avidya. Therefore, maya is not synonymous with avidya. Maya presupposes avidya. Maya figures in Shastra Prakriya, please. It is a Prakriya Visishtam. It is a part of Prakriya. It is Shastra Kalpita Prakriya. Maya is as an object of perception, it is Maya, because in Vyavahara, we always accept the objects as objects. But then all objects are nothing but perception. And as perceptions, they are avidya. Because there is no anubhava of creation. It is Shastra Kalpitam. And therefore, these are the vignas of doing when you become a jignasu, when you go for the jnanam, these are the vignas. These vignas are called adhyatmika vignas. They stem from yourself. In fact, the vignas that stem from yourself are more than the vignas that come from the society and from the adidaivika, adibhautika vignas. Adhyatmika vignas are more in number. Adhyatmika means the vignas stem from your mind, because your mind only has to reflect. Even though it is manasam, but it is not kriya. It is not an action, because you are not creating anything, you are not purifying anything, you are not modifying anything, you are not reaching anything. You are only yourself, and you are only trying to recognize yourself. You are only seeing that you are not the deha, and therefore there is no question of it's being a kriya. Even though it is a mental, but still it is not an action. It is thinking, but it's not an action, because you think in order to see what is there. You don't. It's not that. It's not that you think in order to create something, in order to purify, in order to modify anything. Like a ritual, you do something to purify your mind. That is different from here. In Jignasa, Atmanatma Viveka, Shravanam Mananam Nididhyasanam, in all of them you discern between Atman and Atma, just to see the distinction between. There is a Vailakshanyam between Atman and Atma, but there is no division. There is no division to see. The division is corrected. Yad Vigna Bahulyam, this manifold Vignas, Yad Vigna Bahulyam, Evam Yad Vigna Bahulyam. Bahulyam means many, this manifold yajna, manifold Vignas, Tyajyam, they have to be renounced. Brahmavida Shanaihi. Brahmavida means Brahma Jignasuna. Shanaihi means gradually they have to be renounced. They have to be overcome. They can everyday non practice of Atma Anatma Viveka, even though you call it practice, but it is not a karma, please. It's not a kriya. And therefore, still we can use the word practice. There is nothing, because you are emphatically seeing again and again what is there. See, that kind of repeated practice, repeated emphasis on the jnana is not done every day. That is a vigna, and that has to be overcome. Similarly, alasyam, laziness has to be overcome. Similarly, bhogalalasam, and to enjoy the objects is also has to be. Bhogalalasam means the tempting by the pleasures, temptation by the pleasures has to be overcome. And similarly, layascha, the sleep has to be overcome, sleepiness has to be overcome, vikshepa, distraction has to be overcome, rasaswadascha, rasa aswadascha, and there is tasting the objects, remembering the taste of the objects has to be overcome, has to be overcome, and therefore that when you overcome all the vignas, then there is only to overcoming the vignas, please. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You have to overcome the vignas. And these things, yad vigna bahulyam, these manifold vignas, tyajyam, they have to be renounced. Brahmavida, Brahma Jignasuna. Shanai, he means gradually. Gradually, you don't have to force yourself to renounce them. Slowly, slowly, gradually, you have to renounce them. You have to renounce all the various vignas. Then bhavavritya hi bhavatvam, shunyavritya hi shunyata, purnavritya hi purnatvam tatha purnatvam abhyasit. Bhavavritya means by the thought, thinking that your existence, Atma, the source, when the world is existent, the source of the universe also exists. You can't conclude the universe doesn't have any existence, because if it is mithya, definitely it has a satyam behind, and therefore it is mithya is very clear, because in the deep sleep state it is not felt. What cannot be felt even for a second is mithya, please. And what cannot be felt even for a second, it's not felt in the sleep. The deha is not felt, the breath is not felt, the thoughts are not felt, the universe is not felt, time is not felt, space is not felt, and the form is not felt. And what is not felt, what you can transcend even for a second, is not satyam, is not the truth, is not the truth. And therefore, bhava vritya hi bhavatvam. Therefore, the universe must have bhava. The universe, the source of the universe must have bhava. Bhava means existence. Shunya vritya hi shunyata. Shunya vritya means by the thinking that there is no source of the existence. There is no source for the existence of the universe. The shunya vritya, when you think of the shunyam means then shunyam alone will come to you. This particular verse looks to be subjective. It sounds subjective. In fact, what is the source that is, even if you say it is not there, it is still there. It is still there, and therefore it is not subjective. A fact is not never subjective, please. A fact is a fact. Even if you think it differently, the fact is there and in its factuality. Bhavritya hi bhavatvam, shunyavritya hi shunyata. And if you think that there is no existence, then there is no existence. In this manner, the verse thinks. Shunyavritya hi shunyata. Purnavritya hi purnatvam. Similarly, if you think that you are Purnam, the source of the universe is full, and the universe, just as the space has no boundaries, that space also is a creation, even though it appears in the Purnam, but the Atma is Purnatvam. Atma has Purnatvam, and therefore Purnatma obviates. And therefore, may you practice Purnatvam. It is not practicing means action. Purnatvam is to be recognized, please. Your Purnatvam has to be recognized. Purnatvam is something that is your Swarupa. And so, in contrast to Swarupa, even if you think wrongly, it doesn't mean it becomes that. The Swarupa, if it is rope, even if you do think that it is snake, it continues to be rope. Even if you think it is a garland, it continues to be rope. Even if you think it is a water line, it continues to be a rope. And therefore, in the same manner here also, you also continue to be Purnam, even if you think that you are only Shunyam, empty. Even if you think that there is no source of the universe, the source of the universe is there. The source of the universe is yourself, because the universe is a perception, and perception is rooted in you, please, in the perceiver itself. In your being, it is rooted in being. Therefore, the universe is not outside you. The universe is within you, and this has to be understood, please. This is something that needs to be understood. This verse should not be interpreted in a subjective manner. It should be understood in the objective manner. It is not to be understood in a subjective way. That is, if you think that it is there, it is there. If you think it is emptiness, it is emptiness. If you think that it is Purnatvam, it is Purnatvam. This becomes subjective. And then what is Purnam cannot be become something else empty just because you think that it is empty. You think that it is body. What is not body? Even if you think that it is body, it doesn't become the body. It continues to be free from the body embodiment, and therefore it continues to be Brahman, continues to be unlimited. If the unlimited is thought as limited, even then the unlimited continues to be unlimited, please. It doesn't become limited. And therefore, your subjective thinking doesn't change the fact. Your subjective thinking doesn't change the fact. This has to be understood very clearly. Therefore, this verse has to be understood that the source of the universe has to be understood as Bhavam, and your existence is Purnam. This has to be understood. Shunyatvam is only a boredom. When you Shunyatvam means empty, emptiness is only a boredom, please. And therefore, whenever you don't do the discerning between Atma and Anatma, you feel bored. When you are not occupied with something constructive, then you feel bored. And therefore, you will go around the city in order to kill the boredom. In order to kill the boredom, you go around the city and spend a lot of money, take coffee here, take coffee there, and then and come back and fall sick. And therefore, this happens many times. And therefore, the best thing to kill boredom is to get occupied with something constructive. Read a good book, or pray to Bhagavan, pray to God. You can recite any mantra, or you can recite any any stotram, or you can recite, or you can do discerning between Atma and Anatma. And when you practice, when you emphatically practice, deliberately, diligently practice Atma Anatma Vivekaha, that is a constructive preoccupation. When you constructively preoccupy yourself, then there is no boredom, please. This you have to understand. If you accept boredom, then there is no end to the boredom, please. Because anything you do or anything you don't do, then the boredom comes. And therefore, and whenever you try to escape from boredom, the boredom comes to you. And therefore, don't try to escape from boredom. Try to look at it boredom. Try to understand the reason for boredom. The reason for boredom is not occupying yourself constructively. When you occupy yourself constructively, then there is no boredom. And the best preoccupation is Atma Anatma Vivekaha. And if you occupy yourself with Atma Anatma Vivekaha, which is the best occupation, and that occupation will kill the boredom. And therefore, if you want to kill the boredom will kill you. And therefore, you don't have to kill boredom. And the boredom, say, I understand the reason for boredom. The reason for boredom is non-preoccupation, non-occupation with something constructive, non-constructive preoccupation. When you are occupied with something constructive, then there is no boredom. Then you don't have to kill the boredom also. Whenever you kill the boredom, whenever you try to kill the boredom by this or by this distraction, that distraction, the killed boredom, it will come. It is not killed, it only goes into unmanifest state. You can't kill the boredom. The boredom becomes destroyed only when you occupy yourself with constructive purpose. That constructive thing is only Atman Atma Vivekaha. When you occupy yourself with Atman Atma Vivekaha, the boredom is killed, the boredom is removed, and therefore you don't have the empty. Shunyatvam does not mean emptiness. Emptiness, even though it is, to begin with, it is called emptiness. Emptiness means boredom. I feel empty means I feel bored. I feel bored. You don't become empty at all because you are not an empty person. You are a Purna, you are a full being. Like a pot space may think that I am empty. Pot space may think, but for space, pot space is also is Mahakasha. Ghatakasha is none other than the Mahakasha. And Akasha is not emptiness, please. Akasha accommodates the whole universe. When Akasha accommodates the whole universe, how can it be empty? It is full. It is Purnam. It is full. It is fullness. It doesn't have any adjective. That is a different matter. It doesn't have a color. It doesn't have a taste. It doesn't have a touch. It doesn't have a smell. But it accommodates the whole universe. And therefore, space is never empty. It is Purnam. That is why it is called Akasha. Asamantat kashate prakashate iti Akasha. That which is there everywhere. It is all pervasive. It accommodates everything. It accommodates the air. It accommodates the fire. It accommodates the oceans. It accommodates the earth also. It accommodates the entire matter. The itself is a creation, but it accommodates the creation. And therefore, we see that everything is present in space. And as individuals, we are also located in space. As individuals, as the bodies, we are located in space. But as consciousness, we are not located in space. Space is located in Atma. And therefore, space is subtler than Akasha. It exists in all the three states. Space doesn't exist in the deep sleep state. Space doesn't exist in the deep sleep state. You don't feel the space. But your existence is there in all the three states. You are there in the waking, you are there in the dream, you are there in the deep sleep. And therefore, in all this, to begin with, we say that you are there in all the three states, but later on you understand all the three states are in you, are kalpita in you. All the three states are kalpita in you. This you understand. And therefore, emptiness does not, just because you think that you are empty, you don't become empty. You are always full. And therefore, there is no subjective thinking in this verse. It has to be interpreted. It has to be interpreted to mean that it's not subjective. It is only factual. If you think that you are if you think that you are empty, you will become empty. ऐसा नहीं है. Even if you think that you are empty, you don't become empty. You continue to be existent. You continue to be full. And therefore, it's not that if you think that you are full, you will become full. That is wrong, please. That is not wrong. That is subjective thinking. Then that subjective thinking, in the manner of subjective thinking, it should not be interpreted. It should be interpreted to mean the factuality. That the fact doesn't change by subjective thinking. Just because you feel that you are empty, you don't become empty. Just because you feel that you are full, you don't become full. You are already full. You don't have to become full. You are already full. That is your nature. And just as the space, Ghatakasha, even though it thinks that I am empty, but it is Mahakasha. In Akasha, there is no difference. The pot itself, it lies in space. The space is not inside, locked up in the pot. The pot is present in space. And the walls of the pot are present in the space. And therefore, even though you call it Ghatakasha, it continues to be. It is being Mahakasha. Even though you call it Ghatakasha, it is being Mahakasha. Mahakasha means all accommodating Akasha. And therefore, it is Ananta Akasha. And therefore, there is no subjective thinking here, please. There is only factuality. Yehi vrittim jahat chenam. This vritti, this thinking, those who live, Brahmakara vrittim. Brahmakara vrittim means that I am unlimited. The being is unlimited. The being is all accommodative. Iti. Yehi vrittim jahat. Jahati means tyajanti. Enam. This vritti ko, this thinking, those who renounce. that their being is indeed full. It is Purnam. Brahmakyam. Brahmakyam means those who renounce the thinking that the Atma is indeed Brahman. Aham is indeed Brahman. Atma is indeed Brahman. Iti Pavanim Param. It is a timeless and it is ever purifying. Pavanim means Pavitram. Pavanim, it's something, it is purificatory. Means it liberates you from the embodiment. Liberation from the struggle, liberation from the dukkha is liberation from the fear, is liberation, because everything comes in the form of dukkham. And the dukkham, it is free from this thinking that the Atma is Purnam. This thinking, this is thinking to recognize, not a subjective thinking. It is in keeping with the nature of the thinking. In the nature of it is in keeping with the nature of the fact, please. It is in keeping with the nature of the fact. The thinking is not in keeping with your likes and dislikes. It is it is Vastutantram Jnanam, and therefore it is not Purushantram. Purushtantra Kriya. Kriya, an action, is always based upon likes and dislikes. It is based upon choice. But the Atma, this Purnatvam, it is in Vastutantram. Understanding that you are Atma, Atma is Brahma, is indeed Vastutantram. Vastutantram means it is in keeping with the fact, factuality of the fact. Brahmakyam, and it is something that is purificatory. Param means timeless. It is something that is there, timeless. It cannot be, this vritti cannot be traced to, this understanding cannot be traced to time, because it removes the time itself. It removes the space itself. It removes the embodiment itself. And therefore it cannot be traced to time. And therefore it is Deshakala Vastu Parichinna Shunyam, Paricheda Shunyam. It is Aparichinnam. It is Deshakala Vastu Aparichinnam. It is not conditioned by time, space, and the form. And therefore it is called Param. And Pavana means it's something that liberates you. This kind of thinking, this thinking that the Atma is Brahman, Atma happens to be unlimited, and you think accordingly. Vrthaivatev jivanti. Those who renounce this thinking, they live in vain. Vrthatu te vrthayeva te jivanti. They live in vain. They live in vain. Vrthate tu jivanti. They live in vain. Pashubhishcha samanaraha. They are like animals. Animals have no, they don't even exhaust their, they don't think correctly. They have no thinking, and they only live only for pleasures. They have only, they eat and they drink and they copulate. That's all that they do. And similarly, the human beings also, without understanding that the Atma is Brahman, they only eat and drink and they have pleasures. That's all. Physical pleasures. Flesh, they use the flesh for pleasures. They use the flesh for pleasures. And this is only, they are only like evil. They are like animals. In this manner, they says. It is true. It is true. This has to be understood not in a silly manner. It should be understood correctly, that just as animals don't recognize their nature, similarly, human beings, those who don't try to recognize their nature, they are like animals. He is not criticizing them. He is not scolding them. He is telling the fact. He is only telling the fact. You can't be like animals. Animals also, they are not, they don't work for their liberation. They don't work for understanding their unlimitedness, because animals are also unlimited. A cow also is unlimited. As a conscious being is unlimited, but it doesn't have the thinking capacity to understand, recognize it, to discern between Atma and Anatma. They don't have the capacity, whereas human beings have the capacity. And despite having the capacity, if they don't think, then definitely they are like animals. They can understand. They have the capacity to understand, but they don't understand. They run after the pleasures. and therefore they are like animals. This has to be understood as a matter of fact, it is a fact that they are like animals. Even though they can understand, they don't understand. Non-understanding animals and the non-understanding humans, there is no difference. And therefore, the moksha comes only, liberation comes only through knowledge that Atma is Brahman. Atma is Brahman. Even though it sounds very funny, but then that is the truth. That is a fact. Atma is Brahman. Atma is unlimited. Consciousness by nature is unlimited. Everything is in consciousness. And therefore, anybody who doesn't think in this manner is like an animal. Ye hi vrittim vijananti. Those who think correctly, those who think that Atma is Brahma, vijananti. Those who understand the value of this thinking, ye jnatva varna vardhayantyapi, and they think also, and they promote this thinking. They promote this thinking. They live their life in order to improve this thinking, in order to grow in this thinking. What is that thinking? Atma is Brahman. Atma is not empty. Atma is not incomplete. Atma is complete. Atma is not limited. Atma is limitation is brought about by Deha, but you are not Deha. There is a contradiction between I, the Atma, the one, the conscious being, and the matter. There is a contrast, and therefore, even though the matter is within the consciousness, but it doesn't qualify consciousness. This has to be understood. There is a Vailakshanyam, there is no division. There is a dissimilarity between the two, but there is no division place. This has to be understood very correctly. There is dissimilarity between consciousness and matter, but there is no division. But the Sankhya's think that there is a division also. They look upon it as a second reality. First reality is consciousness, second reality is matter. And we live with matter, and that is what we are made of the matter. But then that is the Dvaitam. It's a wrong thinking, please. Because if matter is something, a second to consciousness, where from it has come, and therefore it's a perception. It should not be a perception. If it is something outside awareness, I should not know it. If it is within awareness, then it is awareness, and therefore then alone I can know it. If it is awareness alone, I can know it. The dream is within perception, therefore I perceive it. If it is outside consciousness, I cannot know it. What is outside consciousness cannot be known. What is inside consciousness alone can be known. And therefore, I know matter, and therefore it is inside consciousness. And therefore, ye hi vrittim vijananti. Those who understand the value of this thinking, that Atma is Brahman, ye vardhayanti, ye jnatva vardhayantyapi. And also those who promote this thinking, te vai satpurushaha. They are indeed good human beings. Goodness is not something ethically good or morally good. Satpurushaha means, Sat means existence. What is important is not thinking about dharma alone. It is not thinking about morals and ethics alone. It is thinking about your existence. Please, it's not thinking about your deha. It is not thinking about your looks. It is not thinking about what you have, but it's thinking about you, your existence. Existence is different from a form. Upadhi is different from upahita consciousness. And therefore, tevai satpurushaha. Tevai satpurushaha, those who think correctly, the satpurushaha. Sat means the conscious beings. They are indeed good conscious beings. Dhanyaha, they are blessed indeed. Dhanyaha means they are blessed indeed. Vanjaste, Vanjaha means they are indeed to be saluted. Te to you, they. Vanjaha ste. They are to be saluted. They have to be saluted. Bhuvanatraya, in all the three worlds, they are the ones to be saluted. Bhuvanatraya, they are the ones to be saluted. Without saluting them also, because they are the ones who think that the Atma is Brahma, and they also promote that thinking. And that thinking means a lot, because even though the thinking that you do thinking that I am the Atma is Brahma, but you don't live for that. You spasmodically you may do. Spasmodically means once in a while you may whenever you hear this, you may think about it, but you don't live to know the truth. If you don't live to know the truth, then you are not a Satpurusha. And therefore here Satpurusha means a good human being, means a human being who thinks of existence, Satpurusha. Satsanga also means the same thing, please. Sat means the existence. Sangha means association. Association with people who talk about existence. Existence is different from morals and ethics. Dharma are different from existence, please. Existence is what is called Sadeva Swami Idamagrasid Ekameva Advitiyam Tat Satyam. That existence alone is Satyam. Morals and ethics are not Satyam, please. The morals and ethics are not Satyam. Existence alone is Satyam. When you think about the existence, you come to naturally dharma comes to you naturally. All values come to you naturally, and therefore you don't have to struggle for the values. The values come to you effortlessly if you discern between atma and anatma, if you discern between deha and atma. And therefore they are the people who are satpurushas. They are blessed indeed, and they are indeed to be saluted. Bhuvanatraya in all the three worlds. Bhuvanatraya means in all the three worlds. Who are to be saluted? Only those who people, those who promote thinking, those who live to understand that Atma is Brahman. And Satsanga also means the same thing. That is association with the people who think about existence. Existence is more important than dharma and dharma. And dharma, anyatra dharma, anyatra dharma. It is said it is other than dharma and other than adharma. And therefore, existence is something different from dharma and adharma. Anyatra dharma, anyatra adharma. It is different from cause and effect relationship. It is anything that is related is not the truth. Anything that is unrelated is the truth. Non-relationship is the truth. Therefore, even when we talk about the relationship, adhyarava drishti, that is a relationship, the Jagat is indeed, Atma is indeed Jagat Karanam when we say. We are talking about a relationship, source and creation relationship. That is only in keeping with the creation, in keeping with the universe, we say Atma is the source. But even the sourceness goes away when the effect is not there. In the sourceness also, the causalness also goes away. The sourceness also goes away. It remains absolute. And therefore, just as in the deep sleep state, when you transcend the embodiment, you stand as the absolute. That is called Swarupa Avastha. That is why deep sleep state has to be cited only to understand that is the Swarupa of man. That is the Swarupa of the Jiva. From the Jagrad Drishti, you think that it is Avidya, etc. But as Anubhava, if you look at it, then it is as Anubhava, it is not an Avastha. It is Swarupa Avastha. It is Swarupa. It is Swarupa Avastha means it is absolute, and therefore they are indeed the blessed indeed. Satpurushas are the blessed indeed. Vandya Hate, Bhuvanatre, in all the three worlds, they are only to be saluted. Yesham Vrittihi Samavruddha. Yesham Vrittihi, Yesham means Jinka, whose thinking is Samavruddha. Samavruddha means it is Samyak Avruddha. Samavruddha means it is something that is Samavruddha means it is gross. Who's thinking that Atma is Brahman is Samavruddha. Samavruddha means it grows up. They become established in that jignasa. Paripakvacha ya sa punaha. When it becomes matured, when they become matured. Sa paripakva means when it becomes matured. When this thinking that Atma is Brahman, then it is Samavruddha. आणि परिपक्ववाचसा पुनः न वै सद्ब्रह्मता ब्रह्मतां प्राप्ताः न वै सत् ब्रह्मतां प्राप्ताः नेतरे शब्दवादिनः ते ते वै सद्ब्रह्मतां प्राप्ताः. Only they understand the Brahman, not others. Others are only Shabdavadina. They only speak the sounds. They speak the literature about the Brahman, but they don't know the Brahman. And therefore, you see, they don't gain the Brahma Jnanam. They only know, what is the verse, what is the time, please? Devai Devai Brahmatam Praptaha. Devai Sadbrahmatam Praptaha. They only come to know the Sat, the Brahma. The others, they don't come to know. They are only Shabdavadinaha. Shabdavadinaha means Shabdavaktaraha. Shabdavaktaraha means they only speak a Shabda and Vadanti. They only talk about the literature about the Vedanta. They don't talk about, they don't know the Brahman. Iti. Kushalaha, Brahmavartayam. And they become what? Kushalaha, Brahmavartayam. When they talk, they may be good in talking about Brahma Vartayam. Vrittihinaha, Suraginaha. Vrittihinaha means they don't think correctly. Suraginaha, Saraginaha means they are full of ragadveshas. Suraginaha or Saraginaha. They are full of ragadveshas. They are full of raga and dveshas. Tehi ajnanitamaha. They are indeed ignorant and they are indeed lazy because they don't think they are tamaha. Tamaha means darkness. They are in the darkness of ignorance. They are in the darkness of ajnanitamaha. Nunam, indeed. Punaha ayanti yanti cha. They come and go. They are reborn. They reborn. They are born. They come and go. They go and come. They go in order to come back, and they come in order to go away. And therefore, anything that is born has jatasya dhruvam mrityu. Anything that is born has to die, and anything that has dead has to come back. Birth is manifestation, death is a non-manifestation. And therefore, what is unmanifest has to come back. What becomes unmanifest has to become manifest. And what becomes manifest has to go into unmanifest state. And therefore, as jivas, Paramatma only as jivas becomes manifest and unmanifest. And therefore, Paramatma as Paramatma never becomes manifest or unmanifest. But as jiva, it becomes manifest as matter, as the source of creation. The sourceness also becomes manifest and unmanifest. The creation also becomes manifest and unmanifest. Time becomes manifest and unmanifest. Space becomes manifest and unmanifest. The mind becomes, all the faculties become manifest and unmanifest. The body becomes manifest and unmanifest. And the one who sees the manifestation, the one who sees the unmanifestation, non-manifestation, and that being, that conscious being, doesn't ever become unmanifest. It is always there. And therefore, and that is the swarupam of the Atma. And this, those who understand, they are indeed blessed indeed. They are indeed to be saluted in all the three worlds. And the more of it we will see in the next class. Thank you very much. Purnamadaha Purnamedam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And then after the Aparokshanubhuti, we will see Ramagita, Sri Ramagita. Even though Rohini ji has sent Sri Ramagita and Dakshinamurti Stotram, but first we will do Sri Ramagita, and that we will do Ramagita. You can go. You can send somebody, your driver, to Chinmay Mission, and then get the book, and then we will see from after completing this book, we will see Sri Ramagita. Thank you very much. And that Ramagita is like this, Sri Ramagita. This is how Sri Ramagita is there. and you can take it that way. Thank you. पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Thank you जी.